When a woman decides to adopt a stray dog she found on her porch, the joys of getting a pet lead her to sleep with him every night. But 3 months later, she discovers something horrifying. It was late at night, and Clara was throwing out the trash. As she was coming back inside, she noticed a puppy on her porch. She looked at it, and it was love at first sight. The look the little dog gave her melted her heart. She couldn't fight the urge not to touch and pet him. She said and stretched her hand to stroke his fur. At first, the puppy wasn't convinced and tried to walk away. But after a little persistence from Clara, he walked back and allowed her to stroke him. He wagged his tail at every touch, making her fall deeply in love with him. Thinking of how hungry it might be, she went inside and came back with a bowl of water and a few scraps of leftover meat. He wagged his tail in delight and ate the food greedily, stealing glances at her. Feeling fulfilled by the act of service she had done to the stray dog, Clara decided to get in the house. But it wasn't long before the puppy noticed that she was leaving, and it started whimpering. He had found his savior, and he wasn't about to let her go. Clara turned around and found the puppy looking at her with sad eyes. But she couldn't resist the loving eyes he gave her, and before she could think about what she was doing, she was already taking her floor cushion and making a small bed for the puppy to be comfortable in. She had opened her doors to a stray dog, and she didn't regret it. She named the dog Rico, which meant happy. After all, they did say that dogs bring love and laughter to a home. She couldn't wait to experience it all. She made sure Rico was soundly asleep before retiring to bed. The next morning, she was shocked to find Rico on her bed, sleeping soundly beside her. She wanted to get him off but decided against it as she concluded that he might have felt lonely in his new bed. It was his first time in a home, she could let that go, right? She ignored it and went ahead with her daily routine. Later in the afternoon, Clara took Rico to the dorm and took his shot for vaccines. She had read on the internet that it was the first safe thing to do after adopting a stray dog. To her surprise, Rico was very calm during the vet's appointment. It's like he knew it was for his own good. At night, Clara put Rico on his bed, and the next day, the same thing happened. She found the puppy beside her. Seeing that there was nothing she could do to stop him from sleeping with her on the bed, she decided to let him sleep with her henceforth. Little did she know that this would be a risk for both of them. After a few weeks, Clara's health started to deteriorate. She did not feel like herself, and she couldn't explain why. The sunny view she had of life wasn't in her anymore. Even the things she usually enjoyed doing exhausted her. And worst of all, she also noticed that Rico had the same symptoms. He walked funnily and didn't have the same appetite as before. But she brushed it off, thinking that he was feeling sorry for her. A week ended, and she didn't notice any change in her health. When she finally visited the doctor, she was shocked to find that he couldn't explain what she had. All the tests said that she was very unhealthy. She was just prescribed some sleeping pills to make her sleep, thinking that she was just fatigued and needed rest. But that wasn't the case. It was when she took Rico to the vet that she became convinced that this wasn't a normal disease. Even the vet couldn't find anything on the dog. But since they both didn't look well, he came up with the conspiracy that the unknown disease may be a bad flu that had been transmitted from the dog to the owner. Clara and Rico were advised to try some antibiotics and see if things got better. But as the days went by, they became worse. Clara couldn't stand it. She needed to find a solution to their deteriorating health. The house was not as cheerful as it was before. They had been so happy before all of this, and she promised to do anything to bring those memories back. But it sure wasn't going to be an easy job. Together with Rico, Clara packed everything they needed and set out to the city to live with a friend and find a cure or just a solution to their health. She was sure that there was an explanation for their unknown disease out there somewhere, but she didn't know where to search. Looking for a cure for a disease she knew nothing about was crazy, but she didn't give up. Every day, she spent hours researching on the internet. Medical and animal research became her new normal. Her health became even worse since she was not eating or finding enough rest. If you continue like this, you'll both perish without having enjoyed your last moments together. Just stop all this and enjoy each other's company, her friend advised her. But it all fell on deaf ears. She had read so many books that talked about dog diseases that could be transmitted to humans, but none matched up to what she and Rico were experiencing. It wasn't until she had a terrifying encounter that she gave up and decided to spend her last moments enjoying each other's company rather than looking for a cure for a disease she wasn't even sure existed. That day, Clara and Rico stepped out to have something to eat before going back home for further research. She stopped at a stall selling hot dogs and bought some. While she was paying, she unconsciously let loose her grip on the dog strap. Another dog passing nearby with its owner caught Rico's attention, and he followed them. After paying for the hot dog, she felt something was amiss, and that's when she realized that Rico's strap was not in her hands. She looked around but couldn't see a sign of him. She began sweating. "Rico," she called out, but he was nowhere to be found. Her body felt weak, and she could feel her heartbeat at 70 m an hour. She dropped her hot dog and held her chest. She couldn't breathe. The vendor noticed her discomfort and rushed to help her. "Roo! Roo!" she called out. She was already on the floor, holding her heart like it depended on her hands not to come out of her chest. "Madam," the vendor called, but she couldn't talk. She wanted to, but her voice seemed to have gone for a vacation when she needed it the most. "What can I do for you?" the vendor asked. She fixed her eyes on her phone, and immediately he knew what she wanted. He made an emergency call to her friend and then another one to 911. As a food vendor, he had never experienced such a frightening encounter. The ambulance came and took Clara to the hospital. Her friend Sheila came later to the hospital to see her. "Rico?" Clara asked. "I will look for him and bring him to you. Just focus on getting better so that we can get you out of here," Sheila assured her. Then the doctor came by and checked on her. "Clara, you're free to go. You just had a panic attack, and now you're okay. I'm just going to prescribe you some medication," the doctor explained. "For now, I advise you to take a rest as you wait for discharge." When Clara was discharged, Sheila had not yet found Rico. The absence of the dog in her life made Clara very sad. A day passed, and she couldn't bear it. She was going to find her dog, be it the last thing she did. She couldn't just stay in bed when her soul pet was out there, God knows where. Just when she was about to get out of bed and start looking for him, Sheila entered her room with a huge smile on her face. "Look who I found," Sheila announced. Immediately, Rico came into the room, wagging his tail like never before. He climbed on Clara's lap, licking her face in delight. She never liked it when he did that, but since he was lost and now found, she let him do what he wanted. She couldn't imagine living without her furry friend. Whatever he did to win her heart, he had succeeded. Sheila admired how the two embraced each other. It was a reunion like no other. Since all the research she did never bore any fruit, she decided to stop. She was going to listen to Sheila's advice and enjoy their moments together until the illness went away. She wasn't sure it would work, but she knew one thing for certain: it was time to go back home. She packed their belongings, but Sheila convinced Clara to stay another day. She wanted them to go enjoy themselves at the park for a few hours before they left. It was at this park that they met the guy whose dog Rico followed. Sheila was the one who spotted him. The guy had seen the poster of missing Rico, upon which he called and returned the dog to Sheila. "Hey, Alex," Sheila yelled. Alex came over with his dog to greet them. On seeing the other dog, Rico got excited and immediately approached it. "So that's why you left me," Clara joked upon realizing the dog was female. Alex laughed and greeted Clara while Rico and the other dog played around. Clara, Sheila, and Alex talked. It was in their random talks that Clara mentioned the peculiar disease she and her dog had. She talked about how she wanted to find the cure so that they could go back to their normal lives. As she spoke, Alex analyzed her, then he dropped a bomb. He and his dog were also suffering from the same peculiar disease. Alex informed Clara that she wasn't alone. There were many more sick pet owners and dogs all over the country. He then asked Clara to join him in his quest. He already had some leads, but he wasn't sure about the cause. Clara was excited. Finally, there was hope. She had lost all of that when she nearly lost Rico, but here they were being told about a new possibility being worked on. All the plans she had for giving up and going back home were flushed away. She had a different mission now, and together with Alex, she was very sure they would find a cause and finally get a cure for this disease that was stealing their lives. Who knew Rico's disappearance would bring such good news? Clara left the park relieved. Alex informed her that during the weekend, they would have a meeting with some scientists who were also passionate about finding out what was going on. She couldn't wait for the meeting and promised to be there. Finally, the day came, and Clara left for the meeting with Rico beside her. They followed the pin Alex had sent, which led them to an old abandoned building. Just as she was wondering if she was at the right place, Alex came out and greeted her. He was with his dog, making Rico super excited. She was his newfound crush. They made sure nobody was following them and went inside the building. Clara was not ready for what she was about to find out. There were about 10 people in the room, and everyone was with their furry companions. The scientists had done their homework well and had the results with them, and they were horrifying. Clara discovered that the scientists had suspected the dog's food. Upon testing, they came to find that their suspicion was correct. All pet foods were tampered with. The disease wasn't meant for humans but for their pets. Someone was planning to reduce the number of pets in the country, but the plan had backfired and they realized that the pets were transmitting the disease to their owners, thus making them sick. They still didn't know who the actual culprit was, but they were going to start investigating the different companies that sold the tampered dog food. In the meantime, they had an easy solution to make sure no pet or owner felt ill again. This time it was Alex's turn to speak up. "After noticing it was the food, I did a little experiment. I stopped giving my dog food from the supermarkets and started giving him a mixture of rice and minced meat. As you can see, my dog is perfectly healthy, and I'm not doing bad myself," he concluded. They continued to explain that the more the dog interacted with its owner, the more the human got sick. Everyone was shocked by the discovery. Their poor furry children had been targeted, and a big chunk of the population had suffered the consequences of this nefarious plan. Something had to be done. They all agreed to start a protest and expose the company's dirty work. "There's no other way. They're getting away with this. They messed with the wrong people," one man yelled, and everyone clapped. Clara was still in her seat, horrified by the situation at hand. She agreed with them. Everyone needed to know what was happening. An hour later, she went home and explained everything to Sheila. She was shocked too. It was hard to believe that some companies would play God with the lives of pets and people. After a few days, the animal activist partnered with the health workers and held a protest in the city. Every pet lover was on the walk. It was a peaceful protest that brought many companies to shame. Everyone was shocked by their neglectful behavior. The leaders were able to talk to them and assure them that things were going to change. They apologized and commanded that all the pet food would be disposed of and not sold anywhere. Anyone who was found selling them would face the consequences. Satisfied with what they had achieved, the protesters dispersed and retired to their homes. Clara was happy to have fulfilled her mission. She had saved both her life and Rico's. She had been determined to get to the bottom of things from the get-go, and finally, they were able to return home and live happily ever after, just like she had hoped. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. She knew she would do anything for Rico, the dog who had left a paw print in her heart. What a horrifying story. What would you do if you found yourself in such a situation? Would you cross oceans just to see you and your furry friend happy? Tell us about a situation in which you did all that. We'd love to hear about it.